Hello, everyone, and welcome to Marsden Mondays. Got another treat for you today. I do have questions I'm going to answer on from the Twitter sphere, but also I've got the wonderful Trevor Colt back with me, back by popular demand. How you doing, Trev?
I'm doing awesome, mate. Thank you very much for having me on your wonderful show. I love watching you.
That sounds really, really weird.
It
How
did,
you
didn't it?
been? How you been?
I've been good, mate. There's been a lot of things happening in Trev's world. As you can see, I keep off social media because you know what? To be fair, I've got more important things going on. You know, I've got to bear in mind that I still have a 13-year-old son he doesn't need me anymore, by the way. But you know, I'm excited because you know this anyway. You've seen my son and things. Sebastian now is at Ipswich Town Football Club. He's in
It's
the youth.
amazing. It's
Well,
amazing.
what's more amazing is the fact that he's in the youth development team. But Ipswich have just qualified for the Premier League. They're now a Premiership football club.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah. Hopefully, the West Bromwich Albion will be joining them up there.
They're in the playoffs, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They're in the playoffs. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I actually got a bunch of people over here to support the Albion in Texas, so it's kind of funny. So my doorbell goes, especially one particular individual is a good friend of mine, and he's Stato, right? He goes to all the stats. But anyway, I mean that's a dream, right? It's a dream to have your son go and play for the local team, and that's amazing.
Well, today they had the bus parade around Ipswich, showing the medals they've got, the stuff they've won, and the fact that this is the first time Ipswich have been in the Premier League. It's been 23 years.
Is that right?
23 years. They're up there now, mate. It's fantastic. I mean, the excitement here of my town is the fact that Man United's going, whenever they're doing home games, Man United's coming, Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs,
Yeah.
they're all coming here now. Brilliant.
You know what? I got criticised surprisingly. Talking about social media because I said that when Aston Villa, who are of course a local rival, right? Of course they're a local rival to the Albion, but when it was looking like they were going to get through to the FA Cup, and I said I hope they do it, right? And I was like, oh, what are you saying about? I'm like, look. I get the rivalry, but the fact of the matter is I've got cousins that are Villa supporters. The amount of money that it generates for the area,
Yeah.
you want that. Like I want that for the area. Like I mean, of course, the local rivalry doesn't go away. But the truth of the matter is would I rather like Villa win it than Liverpool? Yes. Would I rather Villa win it over a London club? Yes, because it brings all that money to the area and it helps the people in the local economy do better. So I'm all for it. I think that's great. And by the way, I've always had a bit of a soft spot for Ipswich because back in the day when you used to have your Panini, do you remember the Panini sticker books?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You used to go through and I always remember what was it? John Walk was their outstanding player. Right? He was amazing.
I've got him there. I've got a signed photograph.
He's up there, is it? You've got him on you. It'd be so funny if John Walk came in then. I'd be like,
no, well, I can't really show you, but if you look up in the wall, you can't really see it. The furthest picture is a signed thing of John Walk. Now,
he was a great player.
Well, I'm now going to let myself down by telling you this. Quite a few years ago, I think around about 6 years ago, I was at a hotel in Ipswich, and I was asked to bring along a couple of books and sign them. So I just signed them. They're already signed, pre-signed. All I've got to do is put someone's name on it. And I had two in a little satchel I was carrying. I was doing a certain thing in the hotel. And I was speaking, lecturing type thing. And I remember walking out with a book left in my bag. And as I walked out, it was called the Novotel. The Novotel Hotel, which is quite popular now in Ipswich for asylum seekers. But as I was walking out, I noticed a table set up with all these old programs and signed pictures and stuff, and a guy sitting there, quite old, probably in his 60s, I can't remember anyway, but he was sitting there and he was like, and I walked up and I didn't know it was him. And I looked at the programs. I looked at the programs and I went, oh, mate, it's great to have you here. Are you here for long? He went, no. Can I have one of these and you sign it? photograph of him, big photograph, A4. He says, "They're 4 people." I says, "Do a swap." He said, "I'll give you a signed book for a thing." He went, "Take it." And I walked out, got my photograph with him.
No
I've still
way.
got it
That's
on the
awesome.
wall.
Listen, John Walk is one of those players. I think that, back in the day, there was a few of them that were kind of outside of the big teams because back then it was like Liverpool. I mean, Liverpool was the main team back in Liverpool, and I guess Spurs, I think, they're the main 70s and 80s. Man
Newcastle,
United.
Alan
Huh?
Shearer, Newcastle. I mean, you're talking about the time when Liverpool had Mark Nicol and Mark Lawrence and Jan Mobley and all those big players.
Yeah, and Kenny
Steve
Dalglish. I mean,
there was Steve McManaman, but
he
there
was
was also
later. He was a bit
a
later.
Steve McMahon.
Oh, really?
Steve McManaman, who went on to play for Real Madrid, but they had a Steve McMahon as well, who was quite tough. But John Wark. Did John Wark not play for Liverpool at one stage?
I don't know. I just remember him at Ipswich, and
Yeah.
he was one of those players. He's like one of those players that was a really outstanding player for the team. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we had like Cyril Regis and Tony Brown and Laurie Cunningham, obviously at the Albion. We had those guys, and it was like, you had your John Walks. By the way, all my American people like, what the hell are these guys talking about? But anyway, this is like, talking about the greats in football. I'm going to get criticized for that.
Did you know that Cyril Regis, he played for Coventry, didn't he? Coventry.
He did.
Did you know that Cyril Regis had a brother?
I did not.
His brother John Regis was the European 200-meter record holder on track
Oh,
and field.
I remember John Regis. I thought they were cousins. Are they cousins? They're brothers?
Well, now you're confusing me. They're definitely related.
Yeah, I mean, that guy was jacked. Wasn't he? Was he in the army, John Regis?
Possibly. I remember seeing him with a red army top on. Possibly. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I think he was. I know Chris Akabusi was, right? Chris Akabusi was in the army.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, a stroll down memory lane, but that's awesome. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Trevor, right? Because we would jabber on forever. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the questions that I got because I asked for questions, now if people want to ask me stuff about stuff, and I'll address those. You can put your oar in as well, as they say, and then we'll get on yabbering about other stuff. All right, let me just look. So I've got my computer. All right, get your questions in. All right, here we go, and you'll love this one. Did you ever watch Boys from the Blackstuff? I see one of its actors, Bernard Hill, died over the weekend. I've heard so many good things about it, but before my time. It's difficult to explain to people. So just for the American audience, Boys from the Blackstuff was it was one of the great TV shows, right? It was one of the great TV shows of the 80s, I guess it was. Was it the 80s? Probably like early 80s.
Yeah.
And Bernard Hill, not Bernard as they say here, but Bernard Hill was like, it was Yos Hughes, wasn't it? I mean, and he was one of these characters, and it was such a massive show back at the time because there only used to be, initially there was 3 channels, then it went to 4 channels in the UK, so everyone watched that. So yes, I did watch it. I was a little boy then. It was a great show. I don't know if I'd look, sometimes you look back and you watch it and you're like, no, it wasn't as good, or you see there's some kind of like propaganda in it, but he's an amazing actor, like a really, really amazing actor. I know people that work with him on Lord of the Rings. It's really sad, actually. He was quite something, and he was, of course, amazing in Lord of the Rings.
My dad, you're right. I was a young lad whenever that was out, but my dad loved it. I can't remember his name, Yozo or something. I can't remember his name that he used.
He used to headbutt
something
people.
like that. But it was edgy. I mean, back then, Boys from the Blackstuff was out around at the same time as Ovita Pet, and you had Jimmy Neal. The Jimmy Neal character was a bit like him. You know what I mean? So it was, and back then they could swear on TV. They found a way around it. One F in like every so often, every scene you could have one F, and you couldn't say the C, but it was just it was
different
great
times.
TV. It was great TV.
Off Wheatus Name Pet, everyone used to run home. I can remember actually being in junior school, so I would have been under 10. under 11, and I remember everyone loving that show. And it was a real big deal for me later on. So I worked with Denise Welsh in Coronation Street, and then her husband at the time was Tim Healy, and I was like, "Wow, this is like awesome!" I'm meeting,
Yeah.
one of the cast of Our Weeds Ain't Pet. It's really good. All right, so John, my friend John Coons just said, watch the Tom Brady roast on Netflix this weekend. Besides the standardly crude, fascinating social commentary from the anti-woke tone of just about all of it to a bizarre amount of gay jokes bashing to a deranged Ben Affleck. What else is new? Ben Affleck must have been deranged. That's what he's saying. So here's the interesting thing, Trev. Comedy will save us, I believe. Comedians will save us because you cannot have comedy without being politically incorrect. I mean, the point of comedy is not only to point out the absurdities of everyday life, and a lot of the times point at ourselves and have a laugh at ourselves, but you can't do it if you're being politically correct. That comedy does not exist in that world of political correctness. It just becomes boring. And one of the greatest comedians of all time, actually, right?
Yes, I get voicemails from him, and sometimes you got to pinch yourself. I love the fact that I've got you in my phone book and other people in my phone that I can just have a chat with. I know that conversations that I have with them, and this is the thing as well. See, if many people out there know someone famous, of course they do. And the only reason why you will keep that person that's in your phone book is if whenever you're having a chat with them, you don't go and can tweet about it or tell people.
Yeah.
You keep conversation to yourself, and that's good. But Jim's funny. I mean, there was a time whenever I was going through a bit of a mental breakdown with PTSD, and I was drinking quite heavily. I'm sure you probably know that time a couple of years ago. I was drinking heavily, trying to get my head through a lot of stuff. And I used to just phone Jim Davison up when I was drunk, just for a joke. So he would tell me a joke.
So for the American audience, like Jim Davidson is a legendary comedian in the UK, very politically incorrect, right? Which is exactly what you want in this day and age. Fearless, and
I
we
think,
grew up on him. I mean, he was the guy, right?
would
Young
you
at the
say,
time, very young and edgy.
that Jim Davison to the American audience would be a bit like Bill Burr?
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Actually, he's like a Bill Burr back in the day. Yeah, very
Yeah,
much so. It's a great comparison, actually. And I love Bill Burr. I think Bill Burr is just
I like Bill Burr too. I think he's
fantastic.
fantastic. And how he comes out with things. Now, Bill Burr, there's not many American comedians that do it, but Bill Burr uses irony quite a lot, where he makes fun of something, then makes fun of himself, and he throws it out there. And he gets away with a lot, though, because Bill Burr's a white man married to a black woman, so
Yeah.
he can go anywhere with his comedy, and they can't hold him to account for it.
But he's one of the greats, like just talking about both of them. Like Bill Burr, I love his comedy. I mean, when he
Yeah,
talks about buying a gun, he's really funny. And we've just become so fragile as the Western world. I don't just say as a nation, because I'm talking about both countries. We become so fragile, we can't laugh at ourselves. And Bill Burr, but Bill Burr and Jim was doing it years and years and years ago. And I've got to tell you a story about Jim Davidson, because I mean, I'm a massive fan of his. And when I was a kid, I went to pantomime. Americans, I'm not even going to go into what pantomime is. I'm not going to talk about it. You got to look it up. But I went to pantomime, and he was playing buttons. And I can remember exactly where I sat. To this day, I can remember looking up at him playing buttons, and he was amazing. It's the one and only time I've been to Panto, and I love Jim Davidson. I mean, I think he's incredible. But I think we need the Jims. We need like the who is possibly, and I'm sure Jim Davidson would say is amazing. Is Dave Chappelle. Chappelle is, for me, probably the greatest comedian of all time, and he just doesn't care. He doesn't care, and that's what we need, though. We have to get over this. I mean, I remember Do you guys remember growing up and when they first started saying we have to call it a person hole? You can't call it a manhole anymore. You're like, what are
Yeah.
you talking about?
Mate, Dave Chappelle's fantastic. I think I may have told this before, but I went to Jim Davis invited me to one of his concerts. Was it last year? I think it probably was. I can't remember. It was last year anyway, and it was in where was it? Great Yarmouth, which is about an hour up the road from me. And I went and I took my partner, and obviously we were sitting. We weren't in the front row. We were about 4 or 5 rows back in the left, and we're just watching him. And Jim, his presence on stage is awesome. He commands it, and he was talking about the National Health Service at the time. He goes, "It's terrible, about the pandemic. It's really terrible what's been going on. Those nurses working 24 hours a day, some having to sleep in the restrooms, working really hard, and they don't get paid enough. They really don't get paid enough." And everyone's going, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And he goes, "Anyone in here from the NHS? Any nurses in?" And they all went, "Yay!" He says, "You're not that fucking skint if you can afford a ticket for my show." Excuse the
That's funny.
he just.
But it's if he was in America, he would have been a movie star as well. He would have gone off and he would have done because around that period of time, if you think about it, like Eddie Murphy, he crossed over and went into films. You don't even think of Eddie Murphy as stand-up anymore. When Raw and what was the other one he did? He did two that I remember. Like we used to quote it all the time. And he moved into film. I actually watched him when I was on the bike yesterday. I watched a film a second time that he was in called Tower Heist with Ben Stiller. And he's just like, I love Eddie Murphy. He's just so talented. Yeah. But Jim would have gone on, I think, if he was in America, and he would have done more films. And, look, I mean, there's still time. I think he'd be great doing movies. I think he's massively talented. I'm a huge fan of Jim Davidson.
A lot of comedians are now, because comedians can't get work because they're anti-woke, they're going back to doing stand-up now and trying to work their way in there again, because doing stand-up, they can get away with saying things, but obviously when you get scripts, it's a lot of it's watered down, isn't it? So
yeah.
It's quite sad.
I mean, some of them now, like, that they allow you to improv, and you just got to have a director that's willing to go there. Like Tropic Thunder for me is one of the funniest movies of all time. I mean, there's a lot of Rambo references. There's a lot of like inside baseball Rambo references that we've spoken about that I haven't spoken about ever on here. But there's a lot of references, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And nobody, like, even if you look back now, especially even you think, oh, well, Robert Downey's doing this. Black people find that absolutely hilarious. They think it's really, really funny. And we need to get back to that. We've got to get rid of this political correct bullshit. We've got to get rid of it. It's got to go. I mean, I do want to ask you this, Trevor, because this is something that I don't think the American audience will understand or know about. But if you are a soldier in the British Army, and you come from Wales, you are called...
Well, there's a few. There's a... See, I'm trying to find out.
I'm like, what have I let myself in for?
There's Taff.
Taff?
There's quite a few different sayings for the Welsh. Taz, Taff, Jesus, you put me on the spot now. I'm trying to think.
What I'm saying is they have a name, and they're like, you're from Wales, therefore you are Taff. Like, you are from Scotland, therefore you're Jock.
A Jock. But are you trying to go down the road of, if you're from Wales, you're a sheepshagger?
No, I was not going to say that at all. No, I wasn't.
Sorry, mate. Sorry. I was trying to work out what was in your head. I
don't go there. That's not me. I'm much cleaner than you, Trevor. No, but my point is, how many people, like, I know this because it'd be like, oh, you're from Birmingham, Brummy, yeah. Blah blah blah. You're from Ireland, Paddy. And almost every one of these units that you come to, you're like, oh, Taff over there. You're like, they just call him it, and everyone's like, okay, they just get on with it.
The thing is, what's happened there is, today I've been looking at things today, what's going on social media, and there's someone involved that's Welsh, and so his name's in my head straight away. Whenever you say, what do you call him? I'm thinking this guy's name. and I think, oh, what do I go? It's usually like, I'm Taff 4-3, I'm Taff 3-2, I'm Taff 7-8. So it's usually the last two numbers of their regimental number. So I was trying to go through that way, but yeah,
Oh,
you've
on
got
social media, you
Manx.
mean that's their tagline on social media, TAF123, or whatever it
No,
is?
right. If you've got 5 or 6 people in your platoon called Taff,
Right.
and you shout Taff, they'll all go yes. So what is you go for their last two numbers of the regimental number. So it's like Taff 3-4, come over here, and then the guy comes straight over. So it's usually Taff and the last four numbers or the last two numbers, and that's how you recognise them all. It's like when I used to have Smiths, I had 3 Smiths in my platoon. I had Smith 3-7, Smith 6-3, Smith 1-2. So I knew which one to call. So that's
Right.
when I thought.
But that was their actual name. It wasn't like a nickname because of where they came
No,
from, right? It's
I
like
well
so
exactly, yeah.
so dehumanizing. I'm so like, triggered by that.
Sheep shagger. I
Not at
apologise to all the Welsh. So,
listen, when I think for a lot, it must have been great for the Welsh when we went into Afghanistan. That's all I'm saying. Like there was a lot of pressure taken off them when it comes to having relations with animals. I think because there's a lot of that insinuation about
yes,
that. But
yes.
I'm
I
just
didn't.
saying,
I'm going to be honest. Now, like in the last couple of weeks, people send me stuff, little clips of things, and I've seen more of that incidents by clips than I. Whenever I was in Afghanistan, I never ever came across animal cruelty. I didn't. I just did. Obviously, dogs got shot. There's a
yeah,
reason behind that, though. You know about that, don't you?
no,
Why? Right. So, sounds awful saying this, but I will be honest. You've got to remember that the dogs in Afghanistan that we came across all had rabies. They all had diseases. All right. The ones that were there, the ones that were in the Irby were. So where I worked, and our intelligence shell used to tell us this information about what's happening out in the ground. We would put out UAV, unmanned aviation, to fly the routes to give us an aerial picture of what was happening. Now, the Taliban, and I will give them credit, were excellent. They are very good at what they do. Um, the Taliban used to come as close to our camp as they could, and they would put dogs in empty buildings, empty compounds,
right, yeah,
and then the dogs would be left food, but they would be chained. So the Taliban knew this. So whenever we come out on patrol, whenever we used to patrol past these buildings, the dogs would bark. They'd bark here and bark here and bark here. The Taliban knew exactly where we were on the ground because the dogs would give away our position.
smart.
I mean,
It's very smart.
that is tactically amazing, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
it's something so simple. They would just sit back and just we know where they are.
And it's relatively low cost. It's like they don't really. I mean,
Yeah,
you just pick up a stray dog, put him in a chain him up, and that's it.
yeah.
That's yeah. There's quite something. But all right, so I'm going to go into these questions because I want to hear your input as well. I think this is kind of funny. All right, so Woody said to me, asked me the question: why are the Hollywood stars leaving LA now? All right, I'm going to address this first, right? Because I left. What a lot of people don't realize about Hollywood stars is financially, for the most part, they're conservatives, right? They don't want to say it, but they are, right? They invest, they don't want to pay taxes. It's like the films, right? The films go to tax states where they get, where they get a good tax incentive back. And I know for a fact that a lot of guys in Hollywood invest in certain things that if it came out, they would not be happy with it. Not that there's anything wrong with what they're investing in, but the perception or maybe what they've rallied against is not is frowned upon. Let's put it like that. So a lot of people were moving out of LA anyway. A lot of people had houses, especially the big stars. They'll have a place in Aspen, they'll have a place in New York, they'll have a place in Montana. They have places all over. So that is that. But I think what COVID did was it made you realize that you didn't have to be in LA anymore to be an actor. You don't, because everyone moved to being on camera. So you wouldn't really go and have your auditions in person. And it used to be like you've got to be in it to win it. Like you've got to be in LA. You're going to get a call this afternoon. You're going to go and meet Bryan Singer, or you're going to go and meet, Stallone or Ridley, whoever it is. And now you just do it on Zoom. So they know that they don't have to be there. So, of course, like all the good hypocrites they are, they go and move to Florida, where there's very low taxes and you get a nice standard of living, or you move to Austin, say, see above for that. And then they can always fly into LA and then they can leave. So, the hypocrisy of Hollywood, I'm so shocked.
I have a question for you about Hollywood, though.
All
I've
right.
never asked you this before, so this is on the spot, right?
Oh,
Hollywood, right? Clearly, that's where the world knows Hollywood studios. The world knows Hollywood is where all the movies or productions are. Warner Brothers, all that's all Hollywood. Why have actors and actresses not helped each other? Why is there like a dog eat dog? Now, I know that certain actors are probably suited for certain movies. Who was it once said this? Denzel Washington once said, it's not about black and white, it's about culture. That's why
yeah.
this director can make this movie, but he wouldn't be good at that one. So, why has it been actors dog eat dog? Why haven't, I mean, a lot of great actors have been cancelled because they posted something on Twitter in 2004 and it's now came back to bite them now. Why aren't actors jumping in and going, whoa, no, this is wrong? He said it back then. We're allowed to change our opinions. Why don't actors support each other, Matthew?
Well, it's a great question, and I think firstly the quote from Denzel. I believe what he was saying was when it comes to why do certain directors make certain films, is
Yeah.
they're saying like their lived experience allows them to address a certain thing in a certain way, right? So like
Yeah.
Spike Lee, for example, can talk about as a black man in a city, New York, right? And he can address that like Martin Scorsese can do Italian mobster movies. Now it doesn't mean they can't do things outside of that. Of course, that has happened multiple times. I mean, Scorsese's done period pieces. He's done everything, but and Spike Lee has. But there's also that element of if you know that like if I'm going to do a war movie, I'm going to go and speak to someone like you and I'm going to get your input and I'm going to pick your brains, have you on set, is that authentic, is this authentic? So those things matter. I think that's what Denzel's response was to that question, like why are certain people making certain kinds of movies? And I think he's absolutely right when it comes to that. It doesn't mean that you can't make other movies. I mean, Spielberg's done everything, but is Spielberg better suited to do a movie about the Holocaust than a Catholic guy from England? Of course he is, right? He knows that it's a personal thing. He's Jewish. He's in the community. He's had a lifetime of hearing about these things. I mean, even though we have, I'd probably be better, at tackling something like a Peaky Blinders than
Yeah.
somebody else would.
Do you think?
Okay.
Do you think that, in your opinion, do you think that a lot of actors are scared to put their neck on the line to
Oh yeah.
support
Oh
their
yeah. No.
actors in case they
Yeah,
get cancelled?
and that's where I was going with that. I think that number one, they do help each other in the sense that they're all in their ecosystem, right? They're all in their little ecosystem, and they're not going to step outside of that ecosystem because it's very easy to sit there and say Orange Man bad, right? It's very easy. Everyone's going to agree with them, right? Same thing with the vaccine. I've got to watch this because else I'll get booked, right? But it's very easy to say,
You
okay,
agree, or
I'm
I
down.
mean,
I agree with it, right? It's easy. It's not very, and you'd think as actors, because actors for the most part are creative individuals that should be about freedom, and they talk about this and they talk about
yeah,
tolerance all the time, but they have very, very little tolerance. I can tell you this: conservative actors are the worst for looking after each other. That conservative directors do not hire other conservative actors. In the left do hire their own people. So for like, if someone comes out and they'll say, I'm for XYZ, and then somebody over here is a director who believes in that cause, they'll just hire them. And that
yeah,
happens over and over. But as far as like stepping out for people, they're essentially selfish. Right, they're essentially selfish. I mean, and that kind of like look at me, me, attitude. I think that's why it reflects that. You rarely see people stand up
Yeah,
because they're like, I'm out for myself, and that has never been the way that I've approached life. If I can help someone, I'll do it, to my
yeah.
detriment. And you know that, Trev. I mean, you know that. I mean, and you're the same. I mean, when you called me up and you were the one that was saying, look, you got to go and do your YouTube channel. I'm gonna help you with it because you need to get this out and blah blah. And you were the one that pushed me for like forever to get it done.
I was sick
But
to death. I was sick to death telling you to get it up and running.
yeah, and so but again, I'm still in that mindset. Like, who really wants to listen to a meat puppet talk? But hey, I guess some people do. So yeah, but I mean, it is disappointing. I mean, there are people like Gary Sinise, right? Like Gary Sinise would help anybody. He will
Yeah.
help anybody. He'll do whatever he can to help you. He doesn't care your politics. He doesn't care about anything. He will try and help, and that's reflected in what he does for veterans. I mean, he's absolutely tireless, as you know. He's tireless with it.
Gary,
So I think
yeah,
it's do you have a heart to serve other people? Either
not
you do
now.
or you don't, right?
Not now. I'm being serious. Not now. I did for decades. I did. I mean,
Yeah,
for
but you did your
instance.
bit, right? You did your bit. I mean, you went and you fought for the country. You
Oh
came back.
yeah. I
I've
mean,
seen you work tirelessly for veterans, and to be honest with you, what you've gone through, just so people know, like Trevor has been accused. Trevor, for those of you that don't know, which I don't know, you couldn't know if you follow me. Trevor's a decorated war veteran, combat veteran, and I can tell you that I know, because when we met, we spoke, Trevor's worked tirelessly to raise money for veterans. And some bitter, um, destructive individuals online went after him and basically stopped his ability to raise money for veterans, which is the stupidest thing ever. Whether it's jealousy, I don't know what it was. I'm
I
not
don't.
saying that
Well,
these people
that's the
think
thing, mate.
straight.
There's two types of veterans. I mean, there's a lot of veterans out there that I hold in high regard, and I would. I mean, I'd crawl over broken glass to help the ones that I know are awesome. But unfortunately, it's in every walk of life. There's also a community of bitter veterans that hate the fact that I've got a gallantry medal. They hate the fact that I know you. In fact, the fact that I know you, you got attacked because
Yeah.
get away from Trevor. I mean, there's lots of people that get attacked. I mean, there's a dedicated hate program towards me, and I don't mind it. I'm used to it, but I don't raise money anymore for veterans. I don't do it because, I mean,
It's a
it's
huge loss, by the way. It's a
yeah,
huge
it's
loss
it's
because,
it's sad.
I mean, you were, whenever we spoke, you're like, no, Matt, I'm making sure, the
I've
money
got a
goes
new
into
one for
this
you.
account. And go on.
Check this out. Now, I'm sure your viewers will. Right. So, I can't mention this guy's name for legal stuff, but there was a veteran in the UK veterans community. Used to follow me quite a lot. He'd follow everything I did. Now, I used to get lots of things donated to me, memorabilia, sports equipment. And what I would do is I used to raffle it off, and the money I got for it would go into one of the charities which I loved. Right. Now, this is the strange thing. So I raffled off a couple of years ago a Tottenham Hotspur, a Spurs.
I remember you getting that. I remember
Do
you
you remember
getting it.
that?
Yes, I
It
do.
was
Yeah, I
signed by
remember that.
it was signed by all the players. Paul Gascoigne, Glenn Hoddle, Ozzy Ardiles. It was signed. A Spurs top. Now, I happened to see a veteran trying to have a go at me. And he invited on the guy. By the way, I think the guy won the raffle. He donated, £250 was the highest donation. £250 for one of those tops. It said Holston on it. Now, remember Holston pills?
Oh, dude, I would have. I didn't
Right.
realize it was going. I would have done that, and I'm not even a Spurs fan. That's like a
Check this
legendary
out.
shirt.
This veteran went on a live stream to complain about me and said this. I once paid £250 for a football top, and when I got it, it was covered in pen. I had to wash it. And I just thought,
Oh, you've got
really?
to be kidding! You've got to be kidding
Really?
me!
I mean,
You've
people
got to be
want.
kidding me.
You've just paid £250 for a signed sports jersey with all the players, and you're complaining it has pen on it, so you washed it. Do you know what? That's enough for me.
Yeah.
You cannot reason with idiots. I mean, just go. I think he got a bargain, by the way, because that top now would be worth probably about £1,000.
Oh no, I mean, but it's again, we were talking about the soccer teams of that era. You know, Glenn
Yeah,
Hoddle. Are you kidding me? Like, who wouldn't
I
want
know.
that on a Spurs top? And I actually I love their kits are one of the best kits in the Premier League, I think.
So's their stadium.
But look, it's a weird thing. I mean, I get the same thing when people come on and they're like, oh, you know, you haven't done, you know, you're a
Have I got you back?
loser, you're B-list. I'm like, firstly, do you understand that those aren't the things, you know, making money and making movies are not the things that I value as a person? Like, I just don't. Then I like to look and think, what is it that my kids are going to say about me when I die? Right? What is
Mm.
going to be in the eulogy when I die? Hopefully they're all there. But you know, they haven't got pissed off at me for one reason or another. But you want them to be saying, my dad was a good man. You know, my dad did this, my dad did that. He raised us right. You know, he was there at my football games. Oh, he was there at my swim meets. All those things. Not like my dad was in. I mean, as much as I love being in Black Hawk Down, and I'm very, very, very proud of it, that is not what I hold to be a success. You know, there's a lot of people that. Look, my grandmother had no money. She used to clean the toilets of the local pub, and she'd get up every morning. She'd be up at like 4 o'clock. She'd be in the pub. She'd clean the toilets. Then she'd get home before anyone even got out of bed. Right? She'd done her work.
Mm.
The toilets were spotless. And when she died, there were a ton of people that just turned up for a funeral. I'm like, that is a success. My nan had no money.
Mm.
It's the quality of the person that you are. But even so, I've been in the zone for 25 years. You know, I mean, as an
Mm.
actor, you dream of getting a role, right? You dream of just getting a role. You know, you dream of just getting a role in theatre, and then to do and carry on. It's so silly. And my friend Jack Sacco, I've had on this channel, Trev, said to me, nobody that has been a success has ever asked for permission, right? I've never met anyone who's been a successful individual that criticizes the work of another, right? As in, you know, oh, they're and nothing, or it's someone else that's been successful. It's always losers.
That's a very fair statement. Actually, I like that. I agree with you. People that are successful don't criticize other people. I mean, it's only ones that are not doing as much as you will criticize the work that you do. People that are doing more never look back. People that are doing less look up. Yeah, 100%. I have a
Yeah,
question
but
for you.
and hold
I
on,
have
let
a
me just
question.
say this, and people know how difficult it is to get anything done, to get any success in this day of life, or day and age. Sorry, it's so difficult to succeed. I'm always applauding people that make it, whatever it is. You know, anyway. That I call them like they're vampires, right? Like they just suck
Mm.
and suck and suck and suck and suck and try and pull
Well, I
you
know.
down so it makes them go up. So
Right, two things. First of all, I know a veteran. I don't want to highlight him here, but I know a veteran who was on Twitter and was destroyed on Twitter. I mean, they kept ripping fundraiser, an ambassador, great guy, all round. I mean, he doesn't have a gallantry medal, but what he has, mate, is balls. What he has is determination and drive, and he's out there smashing it, mate, doing everything. And he actually just deleted his Twitter account and went on Instagram. Within about 3 months, he's 100,000 subscribers on there, and he's
amazing.
flying. He's always being torn apart by other veterans that don't achieve much. Now, that brings me to something. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos to do with Navy SEALs, SAS, SBS, Green Berets, and I find it strange that, isn't it weird? And I have to mention, I know a lot of great veterans in the US, loads of them. You know Rob O'Neill, the guy who
Yeah.
killed Bin Laden. I'm watching a lot of veterans in the US who served in the SEALs, coming out and Green Berets coming out and attacking those that are out smashed. See the Navy SEALs and the guys that Ray, I'll not mention his name, but Ray and a few others out there, Ray Cashcare, right? A few other Navy SEALs, they're out smashing it. They're out doing fitness every day. They're out giving out a positive message. And there's a lot of backstabbing over there as well, mate, in the US, where they're trying to tear these guys down. And I don't understand. Where's the brotherhood now? Is it dog eat dog once you leave? I just don't understand.
I think that unfortunately, and it's just true. When Obama was in, and he said, "You didn't build that," right? He said, "You didn't build that." It was a very, very famous quote that he did. That what that got people reflecting on, I think, is that you don't there's a lack of understanding of what it, and you think this would not be the case with the teams, especially, and the guys that pass like buds and Q course, is that, well, you didn't really achieve that. Like you didn't really warrant the success that you've got. And it's kind of a mindset. When I very first came to America, nobody had that mindset. Nobody that I came across. It was so positive. I left Coronation Street, and everyone's like, "You're going to well." Let's go back a bit. When I first said I wanted to be an actor, people said, "You're going to fail. It's never going to happen." Then I became an actor. Then I got into, you're never really going to get into television. Going into Coronation Street, won an award. Then I decided to leave Coronation Street. They're like, "Oh, you're never going to get into movies." And then I got into movies. "Oh, well, you're never going to get into American movies." Go into American movies. "Oh, well, you're never going to get a lead, or you're never going to win anything." And so, we won 2 Oscars for Black Hawk Down. And then I got the lead in a bunch of movies. It's every single step of the way. Someone has tried to tell me that I couldn't do something. And now at 51, I'm looking, I'm like, you think that some asshole, some dude sitting in his mum's basement is going to say to me that...
But that's what's giving you your drive, though. That's why you have that drive.
Oh, I love it. It pushes me on. They don't realize it pushes me on even more. And that's why some people say, I know you got to the point where you're like, "Oh, whatever, I'm not getting involved in it." But that's why some people say to me, "Why'd you go after the trolls?" I'm like, because they're bullies. And they're bullies that go after people that a lot of the time will crumble, right? They'll crumble because they haven't got the body of work or the constitution that I have to move on. When they come after me, I'm like, "All right, I'm coming back at you, and I'm never going to give in, because you think I know what I stand on, right? I know the platform that I stand on, and you think that I'm going to back down from you? Are you serious?" Like, that's not the way it works for people like me and you, Trev. We don't do that. We don't back down from these things. And it's not self-aggrandizement or anything like that. It's not about that. It's the constitution that you have. And it's like, you'll never, ever, ever beat me. You don't understand. I will keep getting up.
Mate, I've been accused of everything. And what makes me laugh is at them, and this is a fair point, people calling me names on the internet. I'm like, really?
It's so pathetic when you think about it.
Me? Trevor's a prick. I am between 8 and 9. Trevor's an asshole. I am between 10 and 11. I own it, apart from all the other nasty things. But I don't understand why people think that. I mean, you're calling me names on the internet, and I'm like, dude, I've been to hell and back. You calling me names it doesn't scratch the surface. Stop it. You're looking like an idiot.
You never know. I mean, with you, what you've seen in your life has been well documented, right? Like, you've been to war, you have gone through this real crucible. It's amazing. With someone like me, I mean, nowhere near what you've gone through. But we all have our own personal struggles, right? I always say, like, if you're not tempted by alcohol, it's not virtuous that you're not an alcoholic, right? Because you're just not tempted by it. You're virtuous if you are tempted by alcohol and you continually say no, right? And you walk away from it, right? That's where the virtue comes in, because it's actually you using your own constitution, your own will to say, "I'm not doing that," right? It's your own will. I was thinking about this the other day when I used to run. I used to get up every morning and run. And now, you get older and you're like, why am I doing this? Like, why? And then the reason is you have to do it because you don't want to do it. That's my thing. Like, I have to put myself in a place of being uncomfortable because I know that my mind needs that. Right? My mind needs to not want to do something and to be told I am doing it. But to your point, Trevor, it's really funny because now I broke it down the other day on Twitter. Is you can plot out the way that the conversations are going to go, right? Like they'll try and catch you on something, and then you go back and you ask them a question because they don't really expect you to come back and ask them a question. Like, what do you mean by that? Okay, you've said this, but what do you mean? And normally, 99% of the time, they're anonymous accounts that have fake pictures up, right? But you go, okay, what do you mean by that? And they'll be like, and you're like, no, but that's not what I said. That's not what the discussion is. Go back to what we were talking about. Why did you say that? Like, tell me what you mean by that. Oh, you're a white supremacist, Nazi, racist. And you're just sitting there, you're like, okay, I haven't heard that before. You Beely Stacked, why aren't you? Okay, I haven't heard that either before. Like, you think these are new things? You think I'm going to get up? And then when you respond, they'll go, got under your skin, didn't I? And I'm like, no, actually you didn't. I just think you're a dick and I'm going to smash you, right? I'm going to smash you because you don't expect anyone to come after you. And this is the thing. The fact is that you went abroad and you fought for your country and for freedom on the whole, right? And that's a tangible thing. Like, you see the bad guys, you're like, there's the bad guys, go get them, right? You can go get them. But this is, I don't say it's just as pernicious, right? It's pretty bad because these people are crushing people. They're pushing them down. They're oppressing them with their negativity. So to me, it's like, all right, I'm going to step in. I'm going to smack you in the face back, right? And no, you're not getting under my skin, right? I just think you're a dick, right? And I'm not going to let you get away with it. This is the way we used to, back in the day, get stuff dealt with, right, Trevor? You go, hang on a minute, dude. No. You'd be in a pub, someone would be mouthing off, and you go and go, hey, dude, listen, shut your mouth, right? There are kids here. There are this, there are that. Just think about that because I don't do it for me. I do it for everybody else, right? I do it. So, I mean, it doesn't bother me. I don't get, this because we've had a conversation about it. I don't get wound up, right? But then the response is they think that they're so smart. And we've had them 1,000 times.
I used to, though. Going back, I think maybe probably 2 years plus ago, not that long ago, where my PTSD, my mental health was in a really, really bad place, as you know. It was back then where I used to respond to trolls. I used to be quite vile that I would respond to trolls and I would, but now I've reached a place, I've actually reached a place where I'm like, I'm quite content. I mean, I now have this sort of armor on me where no matter what's thrown at me, I just absorb it. I go, yeah, whatever. It doesn't bother me.
I think though that initially, because and this is part of the issue, right? Part of the issue was your integrity was questioned. And when you live your life that in a way that integrity is everything, right? Like your word, who you are as a man is everything. And someone just comes up and they are like, well, what about XYZ? Like, what? And then I think from our conversations as well, just so that people know, whenever we've had a conversation about these kind of things, especially like your trolls, which have been especially bad. I mean, I just get idiots, you get really nasty people coming after you and deranged. But what it did was it stopped you from helping other people, which is a double down on that because it's not affecting you. What it's doing, it's affecting other people and it's affecting your ability to help other people. And I think that's where that came from. But, as you said, you got to a point where, and I think it's a massive loss. It's a massive loss for the veteran community.
It is a massive loss, but it's been a massive learning curve, though. It's been a massive learning curve for me because I went through a phase where my mental health was so shit that I believed in helping other people. When I was helping other people with theirs, my focus wasn't on my mental health. My focus was on their mental health.
Yeah.
Now, but I was neglecting myself massively, and I was focusing on other people. Now, see, once I started getting accused and fingers pointing and all that stuff, my inner circle was like, whoa, stop doing what you're doing. Start taking care of yourself. So if anything, it was a wake-up call for me to start looking after me. Start looking after my... So if anything, it's been a learning curve. I've learned from it. I will never reach out now and raise money to help people. I just don't do it anymore. I don't support, sounds bad saying this, but I don't support any veterans charities anymore. I've washed my hands with them because I had raised thousands and thousands of pounds for numerous charities.
Yeah.
And whenever I was getting the finger pointed at me, not one of those charities actually put a post out or went, no, Trevor did help us. They all thought, oh my God, let's take a step away from Trevor.
Avoid. Yeah.
Exactly. So now whenever people, now there is people in charities reach out to me, and all I do now, whenever they send me emails and they speak to me on WhatsApp, I go, well, I'll connect you to this guy. Go to him, because I'm not getting involved though. I mean, I now don't do it. There is a few people out there that I support always. Fatima Whitbread does a lot for Action Children. She does loads. She actually sends me a message every single day about what she's doing and stuff. She's wonderful. And I have shared her links. That's what I do now. I'm not going to help you, but if you want me to share your fundraiser, I will share your fundraiser on my social media and leave it.
Well, I think there comes a point where, I mean, like I said, for me, like getting into it with the trolls online, you know, I'm a meat puppet. I acted. I've had a relatively, I think, you know, I mean, cushy life, as it were. I mean, I've had my own things that I've had to deal with, you know, like we all do. But I haven't gone over and fought the Taliban or anything like that. So I think most people watching this would understand, like, you have to sit back and say, hey, dude, you've done enough. Like, you know, you get to rest. Like people like me who have lived under the banner, you know, the umbrella of the freedom that you guys have given us. It's our turn to step up and do something. And that's why, you know, it's very difficult when people say to me, oh, well, you know, Matt, you could have lost your career because of this and that. I'm like, really? Is that really? I mean, of course, it shouldn't be that way, right? It shouldn't be that way. You should be able to say things. Now, I'm going to get to a question in a minute, which is related to this, but you should be able to say things. But the truth is you can't. But it's very difficult when I'm doing an interview with you and I'm going to go, oh, no, I better not do it. Like, how lame is that? And you know, I remember when, and I want to tell everyone this because this is what a generous person you are. Like you said to me, hey, listen, Matt, you know, I don't know if you remember this, you were like, this is going to get really bad for you. Like, you're going to get trolled. Like, people are going to call you things. And I went, I think I'm going to leave my friend. It doesn't work like that. We don't work like that. And I think that a lot of people want that, right? A lot of people want that from other people, but they're not willing to give. And I've seen you constantly give to other people, constantly. And you've done enough, dude. Like, you don't need this. And it is for someone like me, who knows you, I can go out and get involved. You know, that's, you know, but
I drove.
Go on.
That's a lie. I didn't drive. My partner drove an hour and a half to go and have a beer with you.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was. I was so happy. It was kind of weird because we knew each other so well because of this, you know, wonderful technology.
Yeah.
But it was really great, and you know, like I say, I'm very blessed. I've got the best friends. So I do want to say this. I'm going to get into a couple of these questions, and I'd like to hear your response.
Before you do that, let me just say one thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Gwen's in the living room now, by the way. Do you know what she said to me whenever you went to the bar for the drink?
What?
He's got beautiful skin, hasn't he?
That's funny. Oh my gosh! Listen. I'm 51. I'll take anything. I'll take anything. That's awesome. All right. So, Alla freaking Bama just said, "Who's the best person to get an idea or a script to?" We've spoken about this actually because we've spoken about the fact that your book should be made into a movie. It's very, very difficult right now to get things made, and everyone thinks they've got a great idea, and everyone thinks they've got a great script. It's not as easy as that. But what I would say is, if you have an idea, get out there and write the screenplay. Go and get it, something called Save the Cat. Everyone goes, oh no, they shouldn't do that. No, but it's a great. If you've never written a screenplay, it's a very good template for people to go and do. It gives you a good outline for you to follow, and just understand that your first script is going to be bad. This is the advice I got from Ken Nolan, who wrote Black Hawk Down. He said, look, Matt, you got to understand when you write your first draft is going to be shit. Like everyone's first draft is going to be bad, and then you're going to come back to it, and then you're going to revamp it. So go do it, go write it. All right, don't just think you're going to give people an idea because as you know, Trevor. I mean, your story is amazing. It's how do we sell that? How do we get it into a studio? How do we tell them that this is something that they want to make? Especially when being a heroic white male isn't really high on the studio's priorities, even though those are the movies that make all the money. So put that over there. Okay. I do want to talk to you about this. So the Scottish Bastard says, considering that you acted alongside him, what are your thoughts on Alan Ritchson's comments on Donald Trump? I don't really like to talk about people that I've worked with. I mean, Alan was, we worked, obviously, I played his dad in the show. We were never on set together. We did a read through together. I think I never watch my own stuff, or I try not to watch my own stuff. So I haven't actually seen Reacher. I know that everybody loved it. I know that everybody thought that he was terrific in the role. He's certainly physically right for it. I just think it's an unforced error. I think it's an unforced error, Trev.
I watched that episode. I've watched all Richard Bell. I think it's a great show. The episode you're talking about where you played his dad in it. I watched that episode. Now, I'm of the belief he's a great actor. He is. He's a good actor. But his opinions don't bother me. It's his opinions. If that's what he believes, and let him believe it. I don't think people should put him on a pedestal for it or rip him down for it. That's the problem we have in society. Everybody goes, what do you think of what he said? And I'm like, well, it's his opinion. I don't think worse of him or better of him. I just think that let the guy have his own thoughts. So, yeah, that's what I think. If anyone has a bad opinion of somebody, let them have a bad opinion. 1 second. Let me just shut this door.
All right, I'll keep talking while you're gone. What I think is this: the thing that was, I think, a little bit more unfortunate was when he commented on the police unions. Again, I think it's absolutely
everyone's allowed their own opinion.
Everyone can say what they want to say. No, but I agree. I mean, I think that. I mean, look, like I said before, I did not want to do a podcast because I'm like, who wants to listen to me talk, right? Like, who wants to listen to actors? We for the most part, actors don't really live in the real world. That's just the truth. We'll get a job, we fly to an amazing place and stay in a beautiful hotel and get paid a lot of money. And it's not real life, right? It's just not real life. And certainly if you live in Los Angeles, and here's a little bit of trivia I want to tell people that haven't been to Hollywood. Hollywood itself is not Hollywood. It's kind of called Hollywood, but all the studios are actually in Burbank. All right, so I say all the studios. Like Warner Brothers is in Burbank, Universal Studios is in Burbank, Disney's in Burbank. In Hollywood, I used to have an office on a place called Sunset Gower, and that is in Hollywood. That used to be like what they call the Desilu, which is the I Love Lucy. She used to own that, Lucille Ball, and her husband owned that. And then you've got Sony, which is Sony and Fox, which are south. But I think people should say whatever they want to say, and I don't think they should be cancelled for it. And I think that we should know who they are. I do think that the people should be very careful of the repercussions of it, right? But you got to know. But I don't blame anyone for saying what they want to say. And if Alan likes Trump, he doesn't like Trump.
I've got a confession.
I don't care. That's fine.
I have a confession.
Uh-oh.
I thought you said the movie places were in a place called Sperm Bank. That's how it came across. It must be translation. Sorry, I apologize.
It's because I have a bunch of kids. That's why you keep thinking that. No. It's not in Sperm Bank. It's in Burbank, right?
Okay,
So,
I get it. I get it.
so
So
anyway, look.
far,
I agree with you. I think that people should be able to say whatever they want. I think that people should
yeah,
say stuff if it's like if you want to say the most racist, vile stuff ever, say it. It doesn't matter to me. I think that you should say it. You should be able to express yourself, and then everyone can react accordingly.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
that
Don't get me.
no, you have to be careful. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't like. I speak a lot, by the way, online about leftists and liberals, uh, mainly because they have moved so far left. It's crazy, and they're really doing damage. I mean, it's not like you know when you're having. Yeah, I'm not going to go there because Twitter, not Twitter, YouTube will probably ban me. So I'm going to move on to the next one quickly. Dirty Harry, Michael Bay, good guy or bad? I love Michael Bay. I had a great time with Michael Bay. I used to, we used to end up sitting next to each other at lunch when we were doing Transformers. Um, he's probably, one of the top three action directors in Hollywood. I think I'll tell you what's underrated. We can talk about this, and I really want to have the guys on the show. And one of them said they're going to come on. The Benghazi movie is a masterpiece, and nobody it doesn't get the credit that it deserves. But that movie, I mean, he got that made out of willpower, and it is absolutely fantastic.
agree. I've watched it probably 6, 7 times. I watched it again only about 2 days ago. I think it's
Really?
yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. It's amazing. The guy who plays the CIA director out there, by the way, he's a great actor. Really is. I can't remember his name. Sounds really weird now saying it, but he played the CIA director in Benghazi, where he's telling the security that they can't do certain things. He was also in. He also was in the Netflix show Billions with Damian Lewis.
Right.
He was in that, but he's a great actor. But the guys who played the CP and the ex-sales guys in it, awesome. I mean, their build, the way they looked,
Yeah.
how they carried themselves, the equipment on them, it was perfect. And
Well, here's a bit of trivia about that. So the guy that was the technical advisor on that is my friend Harry Humphreys, who was the technical advisor on Transformers and on Black Hawk Down, and he is a Silver Star recipient. He was a SEAL Team 2 guy in Vietnam, and he's an excellent human being. I mean, he's really, really great. And I
he's
mean,
pretty good.
when I went and met Michael Bay for Transformers, and that just for people that know this, they actually messed up my credit on that, which is very frustrating. So if you watch the special features, you get my character name, Captain Graham, and then when you see on the IMDb credits and whatever, it says SAS number one. That was a complete clerical oversight. I was on that movie for 6 months, and I mean, I walk in, I meet with Michael, and what they want to do is like, you can see you got to be able to carry yourself properly. You got to look the part. And I walked in and I did the scene for him, and he goes, "Oh, Harry." I'm like, "Yep." And he goes, "Oh, any of Harry's boys? My boys. That's all good." And I knew that moment that I got the job. And my friend Max Martini's in that movie as well, and he's amazing. He's good in absolutely everything he's in. But I love that movie. I mean, it's people don't remember that maybe that at that point there was the whole controversy about Hillary Clinton and Benghazi, which
Yeah,
is, not to get political,
it is quite political,
horrendous.
but
It's horrendous what they did over there. Like, it's utterly horrendous what the State Department did
clearly
to
he's got.
those guys on the
But
ground in Benghazi.
the
Unbelievable. Like,
authenticity of the guys, the weapon handling, the language, how they come across, it's so, the realism is so there. I watched it, and the bit that gets me is, and I know veterans that watch this clip, veterans that watch, there's certain movies out there where over the years the combat, the weapon handling, the realism, the authenticity has got so real. It's got so real now that whenever I'm watching that firefight on the big screen and I'm watching on the roof shooting out and I'm seeing what's happening, my heart rate is beating through my chest.
You get anxiety, yeah.
My anxiety. I'm watching. I mean, the first time I watched something which was that authentic was Lone Survivor. It sounds weird saying this. I've never done what Lone Survivor have done. I've never been involved in that type of thing. But see, the bit that got me where my heart was going to my roof, going to my chest, was the relentless attacks of the Taliban, and the sound of the whistle, the thump and the crack and thump, and the bullets landing at your feet, and watching it on screen and seeing what's happening and seeing people getting shot. Watching that, for a combat veteran to watch that type of a show so authentic, great directors, great actors, it's like being back there.
You're there.
And I swear to God, you come away from that movie and you sit on the chair and just turn your TV off and you can hear your heart beating still, and you need to calm down, because sometimes your hand's going like this and you're like, my hand's messed up. See, it's all broken from combat. It's all messed up. But sitting and the movies are getting so real now that I fear that some of these movies could trigger combat veterans PTSD.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
No, you know what? I'll tell you an experience that I had, and it's kind of unique in the sense that Black Hawk Down, when that came out, which was, the first real proper authentic depiction of urban combat, in cinematic history, I think. And so I was friends with Robbie Williams at the time. I haven't seen him in years. I was friends, still am, but I haven't spoken to him in years. And, like his guys that he has are SBS guys that protect him. And I said to him, I was like, hey, do you want to come watch this movie? I just did. He was like, yeah. So we went to Universal City Walk in LA because he was living over in LA. And the funny thing is not many people knew who he was over there, right? So we could hang out and nobody really cared unless you saw some people from Europe and they knew who he was. And so he could live a relatively normal life. So we went there with two of his SBS guys, and I was all like, proud. I'm going showing this movie. It's a Ridley Scott movie. Everyone was blown away by it. And we come out. I'll never forget it, Trev. I'm standing in the Universal City Walk parking lot, and he got his two security guys with him. And he was like, wow, that movie's unbelievable. I mean, of course, it's like, there's a lot of sadness in it, right? But it was groundbreaking film at the time.
Yeah.
And I look at his two guys, and they are absolutely out of it. Like just, and because in my little, Cro-Magnon man brain, I wasn't thinking that these are guys that have seen a lot of action, because this is 2001, right? So previous to that, there've been very sporadic engagements, right? Like over the years, Kosovo and a couple of other, always in Northern Ireland. And those guys would have been in there, right? They would have been, dealing with that for all those years. And I said, do you want to, because I was looking at them and I wasn't really, I said, do you want to go out and have a bite to eat something? And one of his guys goes, if you don't mind, I'd like to go back home. And I was like, yeah. And we were standing, it was funny because it was in a parking lot. It was in a multi-story parking lot. I remember it vividly. And there was just me and Robbie and his two guys and our cars, right? There was nobody else around. And I remember walking off going, oh, you idiot. Because I never thought that it would traumatize them. I didn't think like that. And clearly it did. And we had guys, the guy that flew the little bird on that, he was, I think I told you this before, he did it for real in Mogadishu. So, yeah, I can see that happening. All right, so I'm going to move on. Guillermo Granados says to me, he's great, posts all the time. How astronomically high a sum do you think is adequate to inspire change in the culture? Asking for my ignorance in this matter. Right, okay. So, again, I'd like your input on this, Trev. So, to really make a difference in the culture, what you have to do is this: is you cannot rely on one movie, right? You can't just sit there and put all your chips, on black number 7 or whatever, right? Like, or red number 6. You can't do that. You can't put all your chips on one. What you have to do is you have to do a portfolio approach. So what you want to do is get a studio that does multiple different movies, and one of those movies is going to pop, right? One of them is going to make a lot of money. And then that's what Blumhouse does. They do this portfolio approach where they put a bunch of movies out, and then you get one Paranormal Activity, and it makes $400 million. It pays for everything else, and everything's good. And if we're in a bad state right now with the culture, really, really bad state, because the crazies have taken over the asylum, and what they're doing is they're constantly pushing their agenda, and nobody wants it, right? Nobody wants the agenda. Nobody wants it. Well, maybe a little fraction group of weirdos in LA want it, but the majority of people just want good stories. So if you want to do that, you've got to sink in a decent amount of money. And the reason being, not only because of the portfolio approach where you want one movie to take off, right, that's going to pay for the others, or hopefully you have more. It's like, when you think about the album Thriller by Michael Jackson, you put you want that one song to drive everyone to the album. It's the same thing with this. Right, you want the one movie to come out, or more than one movie, but ideally they're all hits. But you want one to come out that's going to pay for all the others. And what that also does is when you're going to go and enter into a negotiation for distribution with a studio, because that's what studios are really. They're either a bank that pays for your movie, or they're a distribution outlet for them to put your film out. Right. So if you're going to go into, let's just say me and you, Trev, we do first into Sangin, and we go to Cinemark or AMC or whoever it is, and we go, hey, listen, we've got this movie. And they'll go, okay, I also have Transformers next week. Or I have a Paramount movie that's coming out, and they have Transformers in 6 weeks. So I've got to give priority to this smaller movie for them, because they're sending me another 6 movies over the next 2 years, and 3 of them are blockbusters, right? So they're not going to listen to us. So the way you combat that is you go, okay, let's say you get $100 million. Now, a lot of people think that's a lot of money, and it is a lot of money, but you can make $10 million movies with $100 million, or you can make $101 million movies with $100 million. And then you walk into the AMC and you go, listen, I've got a steady pipeline of movies coming over the next 5 years, and this is the release schedule. We're going to do 5 a year for the next, however many years. And that's without after you've made money back, pumping the money back in and continuing that run. So a couple of million tops it? No, absolutely not. You can't. You need to make decent movies, and there comes a point where yes, there's the law of diminishing returns, right? So you might get a movie that is budgeted for, let's say, $10 million, and you're like, okay, I've got $10 million. If I pushed it to $5 million, would I get more value? Right? Would it look any better? Maybe not. If let's say between $8 and $10 million, if that's a sweet spot for you, you're going to want to do it at the lower amount if you can get away with it, so you get more margin. But you don't want to get to the point where you're doing it for $7 million and it's crap, or you're doing it for $15 million and you get no added bonus. It's just, more lobster bisque on set, right? Like things like that, or a better location. You have to be sensible with it. And I think that you don't see enough of that. You don't see enough of sensible filmmaking in the independent market. It's mainly, again, like the left, it's mainly agenda driven. It's going to be a passion project that somebody really wanted to make, some multimillionaire wanted to make, and they make it. So, that's that. So it's going to take a decent amount of money, but people go, oh, well, that's a lot of money. I'm like, yeah, but look at Black Hawk Down. It's 20 odd years old now, and it's still influential in the culture. How influential is Clint Eastwood as a man? And he's in his 90s, right? But he's still influential, and his movies have still been inspiring and influential. Same with, what's his name? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name. The guy who did It's a Wonderful Life. Capra. Like Capra's movies are inspirational even now, and it's like how many years since doing it. So you can't, when you're looking at the culture, you want to be a businessman because it is show business, but you also want to understand that you have to let the people do what they who know what they're doing do what they do, right? That's
Yeah.
what you got to do. You got to say, okay, well, my job is to vet them, right? And to look at what they're proposing. If you're an investor, look at what they're proposing and then back off and let them make the film, right?
Yeah.
Because, when you're going to see a brain surgeon, Trev, you don't go in and say, well, I'm gonna go in there. My wife's having brain surgery. I'm going to go in there and ask him why he's doing this and ask him why he's doing that. You don't. You just got to go, okay, I've vetted you. You're the best person I can get. I'm going to go with it. And like anything, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But again, that's offset by the portfolio approach. So anyway, that's my little yabba about films.
I have nothing to add because I'm not in the film industry.
No, but you
And
watch them.
I watch them. Don't get me wrong. And there's movies that I watch that I will watch. And there's quite a lot of movies out there that I won't watch. And the fact is, if I we all have our own niche. I like watching Stallone. I like watching. I used to love watching Bruce Willis. I mean, there's so many great actors out there that draw me to their movies because of how they perform and what I get from it. But there's also lots of movies out there that I won't. For instance, this may sound awful, but I won't watch Meryl Streep because I think she's woke. I won't watch her. I won't watch Bette Midler. I know there's people out there that love her, but I won't watch Bette Midler because I think she's woke as well. I'll watch Pacino, De Niro. Now I know that they're going a little bit, but there are movies like gangsters and stuff. I used to love watching those. Kevin Costner, fantastic actor, going a little bit woke now. But and that brings me to Kevin Spacey. Channel 4 are trying to do a hit piece on him at the minute, actually. They're trying to say that he did awful things when he's been cleared of everything. There's actors like Kevin Spacey, there's that guy James who's been hit quite a lot, but I can't remember his second name now. But there's so many, James Woods, there's so many great actors.
Oh, Jimmy Woods is unbelievable. I mean,
they are awesome, they are iconic. But it's got to the stage now, and I would never endorse bad behaviour from men and women, either side. But it's got to the stage now where a woman's brushed past a woman in the corridor at Warner Brothers, and now there's discrimination. There's a bloke that's walked past and said something which was condescending. And America has destroyed not only the movie industry, but the world. America, in a way, in my opinion, they come up with this here, I'm going to sue you for $100 million. I'm like, I haven't got that money. What's the point? What's the point in that? I mean, I'm going to sue you for $50 million. And I'm
Trev,
like,
it's super litigious over here, and it is absolutely ridiculous and outrageous. I mean, look, talking about that, I have someone I know who is not an actor but married to an actor, and they had their picture taken once, and then they got accused of all kinds of things because they had their picture taken with their arm around somebody. It's just absolutely ridiculous, and I think it's not going to get any easier because people don't want to work to make money. They want to kind of like get an angle and push that angle and try and hope that someone's going to give hush money to make them shut up. And it's so bad. I mean, well, I do think there's a correction coming. By the way, I mean, with if I'm watching someone like Meryl Streep, I mean, I look at her. She's kind of like Daniel Day-Lewis, right? Like I watch her, and she's so great in everything that she does that I don't mind that. Like, and from what I've seen in her work, she doesn't. She just takes the good scripts, right? Because she gets the best scripts, so she takes the good scripts and it's very rarely that she lets that bleed into her work. I mean, like same with De Niro. De Niro has gone off on certain things. Like he hates Trump, like, and but he's still an amazing actor. And look, he's allowed to hate him. I mean, I get it when you see these like unhinged rants and stuff. Look, I mean, I'll say stuff about like Joe Biden because I think that he's lost his mind, and I think that anyone that would put their husband through it at that age is evil.
Sorry, I was going to say now. let me just make it clear. De Niro and Meryl Streep are awesome actors and actresses.
Yeah.
They're so talented, but leave it there. I mean,
Yeah, no,
you're
yeah,
on
I
a
totally agree.
stage. You're on a stage picking up an award for your acting ability. You don't need to preach your shit to us all. Just like Ricky
Yeah,
Gervais says.
and look,
Ricky
Trev,
Gervais says.
I think now, like, we're at a point where if anyone says, for example, if anyone says liberals,
Hmm.
you know what you mean by that. That does not mean like old school, like Labour or Democrats or what, you know, whatever it is, because, you know, I mean, we're from working class backgrounds, right? So, you know, that those are them's are our peoples, right? Like,
Liberals,
they're our people.
appeasers.
Um, and so you don't mean that. Like, what you're talking about is these extremists right now. But the problem is on the left is they don't mean extremists. They're saying anyone that wears a Trump hat is an extremist, and that is a ridiculous point of view, right? It's a well, apart from you, because you are, right, like you're a maniac extremist, but
Thank you.
no, of course you're not. I mean, no, I'm just saying, of course you're not. That's ridiculous. You know, they call the people that are willing to pick up a gun and go and fight for their freedom to say whatever they want, they call them extremists. It's just very silly. So I think
Agreed.
that the problem being is the level of vitriol that comes from certain actors is kind of like really unhinged. And you look at them and you're like, why do you just hate someone that bad? Like, look, I mean, I don't hate Barack Obama. I think he did a lot of damage to the country. But I don't hate him. I thought he was very charming. I thought that he was, again, I've said this over and over again, like Obama was a star, like AOC is a star. They're stars. It doesn't mean that I agree with their policies or I think that in hindsight that they've done stuff that was probably bad. By the way, I say the same thing about George Bush. Say the same thing about anybody. Like there used to be, in days gone by, Trev, we could sit there and talk about the things that we disagree with and
George
disagree
Bush is my
on.
friend.
I
George
know he's
Bush
your
is my
friend.
friend.
I know. Is he Instagramming you right now? Is he saying tell Matt to shut up?
No. Did I tell you the conversation I had with George Bush though? I
No.
did, didn't I? Don't tell. I must have. It's iconic.
Go on, tell me.
Right. So I walk to the side gate at the White House. You buzz it. You tell them who you are. That the president sounds weird. The president is expecting me, and then they check out. They buzz you in. You walk in, and as you walk up the path about 15, 20 meters, and you go into a building. And when you go into that building, there is like body scans and everything in there. And you get searched. You go through. Whenever they clear you, you walk through there, and then you walk up and you go into the West Wing. Right. When into the West Wing, there's those. Well, I don't know what it's like now. I'm sure it's the same. Little desk on the right, the little beautiful green desk lamp, and the woman sitting there, and she's checking you in. She goes, grab a seat, and you sit down until it's your turn, and then you get the U.S. Marines are there looking. By the way, they look stunning. They're standing there, immaculate white gloves on. They are perfect. And you go up. I remember being escorted up into the Oval Office with President Bush, and I was in there, and we were chatting about things we had done in operations and stuff. And he gave me the presidential seal and all this stuff and photographs and stuff. But the conversation he had blew me away from the first moment. He went, you're the Irish Ranger that was working with us. This is a fact. You're the Irish Ranger that was working with us in Iran. And I was like,
Oh, you are kidding.
I said, Mr. President, it was in Iraq. Iran, Iraq, potato. And I remember going, and the
Is that
general
what he
was
said?
like,
He said that. Did he say that?
yeah.
Iran, Iraq,
And the
potato.
general went,
Wow.
and then, oh man, that was back
Oops.
in 2000 and, oh, that was 2000. That was 2008. That was actually St. Patrick's Day 2008. And then
I don't know
after
what's
that,
that. I mean, look, I mean, apparently, like, he's kind of like, you never know whether he's like
having a
joking.
laugh or serious,
Yeah,
you don't know.
because I know people that say that he's actually very kind of funny and charming in real life.
Yeah, he was. I know people don't like him. People do like him. I know that I know the weapons of mass destruction, the Gulf invasion wasn't kosher. There was lots of lies about that, lots of conspiracies. But you know what? As a soldier, let's be honest. I know people don't like him. I'm not a fan of war. I don't, believe it or not. I love it when I'm there, but I don't like the build up, right? But
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of war. I'm good at it, but I'm not a fan of it. But
Yeah.
as a soldier, as a Marine, as a sailor, as an airman, we're not there to moan about politics. We're there to go.
Yeah. Do
Where
a
do you want me to
job.
go? Where do you want me to go? Okay, my kit's ready, I'm going. So regardless what my politics are, when you're in the military, you do exactly as you're told and you go and fight your enemies, regardless who they are. It's only when you leave the military and you have more of an insight to what's happening, you then go, that wasn't a good decision to go to that
Yeah.
country. Look what we've
Yeah.
done. We've destabilized it. We've caused all these factions, all these different groups. So as a civilian, I think you're more informed. I think as a serving military person, you're conditioned just to deal with a threat, and it comes with age, doesn't it? That you start to
It
realize.
does. Well, and like anything, I think, from the guys that I've spoken to in your position, they're like, I want to go and be tested, right? That
Hmm.
comes above actually sitting there and thinking about why, because is it relevant? Because you've got to go anyway. I know that one of the things that really blew me away, I was in White Sands, New Mexico. I remember vividly. I think it was not an Arby's, Chili's in White Sands, New Mexico, with the guys from that we were doing Transformers, and I'm not sure if the election was on, but anyway, I think it was because then, let me think. Yeah, I'm not sure on the timeline. Anyway, something happened, but I remember asking them, "How'd you feel? Like now you got a new commander in chief, right?" And they were like, "It's no different to us. Like it's a job." And they were so professional, that I knew that the majority of them were not Democrats, but they were just all about the work and all about getting the job done. And the commander in chief's commander in chief, and that's that. And I thought that was really amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's professionalism. You just do it. I mean, we don't have to agree with it personally, but see, in the military, you never bring out your politics amongst the guys. You just do as you're told. You get on with it. You're allowed to question things when you're on the piss having one or two beers, but you never question your commanders unless now there has been times I've questioned an order, shouldn't
Yeah,
have,
or
but
decisions.
one of the
Yeah,
orders I was given was to go out late at night round Sangin, dangerous place. Go out, take my platoon out late at night and go and do like a GDA, ground, just basically check the ground for Taliban. And I thought, what? Why? Why? It's
yeah,
it's pitch black. For me to take my guys out at night time, they have to have light on, torches on to stir at the ground to check it for IEDs and bombs. We then become a big target lit up for Taliban to snipe us. So I used to disagree. I know it sounds weird. Um, I used to disagree with taking my men out at last light just so someone could sleep better in their bed. I thought,
yeah.
no, no, no. I wasn't willing to lose men doing that, and I did lose a man doing that, which broke my heart. Having to tell your men that they're going to walk out and search for IDs at night time with a torch on your head. I
And they
mean,
all know.
so
They're all there going, "What?"
I know it's some things it's okay to bring up and go, sir, I think that's maybe a bad decision. So whenever I was ordered to go out and do that, I made a decision amongst my men when I went out. I went and seen the boss, my boss, because I was only platoon sergeant, and I said to him, right, boss, whenever we go out here, we're only going to patrol for about 200 metres. We're going to take over a disused compound, search it, lay up till first light. I'm not having the guys put their life on the lines when it's needless. It's needless. So we did that. We did do that, and that's what I did. It may went against orders, but I could have lost a couple of men. I lost one man on that patrol, by the way. He was an American guy called Justin Couples. Fantastic guy, actually. Hate talking about it, but some things you can try and stop. Now, that was the day where I didn't just lose him. I had like 5 casualties in my platoon. My interpreter lost his fingers and his nose was blown up. Take care, mate.
Oh yeah,
Went
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So
you told. Yeah, we had that on the other video. There's an unbelievable
some
story.
things you can question if you believe you're trying to save that. Of course you can. If you're in control of someone's life, you want to try and protect as many as you can. So some orders are given out needlessly when they don't need to be made, and things like that you can question. Never try and destroy your boss's your boss in front of all the men. That's not
Yeah,
a good thing. That goes, but it's okay to question things quietly and in a nice surrounding. Say, well, do you think we should do this and do that? And if they're pighead and go, no, you will do it, then you just go, okay, and you go and carry out your patrol, but you try and make it as safely as you can
yeah,
for the troops.
yeah. I mean, I think, and I'll leave it here that on that point. Um, it used to be, I think, that you would never doubt the resolve of the people at the top. Uh, you know, you'd think that they were making decisions that were best for the country, right? Like for the most part. Although that hasn't always been the case. I mean, they might have made dumbass decisions, like their thinking has been faulty, their reasoning has been faulty, or whatever it might be. But I think there is that, and certainly for me, for the longest time, I had this kind of naivety that, of course, it doesn't matter who's in office. Like they all want to look after the United States, right? Like that's what they want, or they all want the best interests for the UK. I don't think anyone thinks that anymore. I think that the people look and they're like, no, they are not making the correct decisions, and that's not coming wholly because of competency or incompetency, whichever way you want to look at it, but it comes from agenda, and they're not putting the UK and the USA first at all. I mean, I think so. I think that's changed. It's sad. But hopefully that will mean that we'll get some better people in eventually that do put the people first, put their actual constituents first. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, Trevor, thank you so much for hopping on this. It was very impromptu. We had a conversation. I
Yeah.
was like, hey, do you want to
Loved
come
it.
and do this? Let's have a chat. And you were right there again, like very kindly giving your time up. And yeah, thank you so much. Can people come and watch you on your Instagram page? That's where you're doing most of your stuff now.
Yeah. Well, it's so I have full editorial control on Instagram where I don't have on YouTube. YouTube's great platform, but I get that many trolls and attacks on YouTube that I mean, it's only a matter of time before my channel's removed. So I now do my daily rants and my little bits and pieces on my Instagram. Come and follow me on Instagram, people. My name's not Matthew Marsden.
Yeah, dang it. I'll put your link in if I can figure out how to do that. But it's really great. I mean, there's a reason why you got a ton of people following you, because you're absolutely authentic. You have an amazing insight on things, and people just love that. And in a world where we have a massive lack of leadership and leaders, you're a bit of a bright light. I'm not gonna
I'm going to show you
pump
this.
you. I'm not gonna pump you up anymore.
This is a hat sent to me by Australian Special Air Service. 19 members of Australian SAS were attacked because apparently they carried out war crimes and they didn't. This is a hat that they designed, and I stand with the 19 nameless SAS soldiers.
Yeah, well, you know what, we need to have a chat about that and a few of the things that have gone on over the years, which have
Yeah.
been outrageous. How like things, if you're a soldier now, why would you ever get involved, right? Because you're going to be looking at being dragged in front of tribunals and all that, which is ridiculous. But anyway, Trevor, thank you so much. And as I always have to say at the end of these sessions, we've spoken about Hollywood, we've spoken about a bunch of things, but just remember that not all actors are like this. I promise.